What's that coming over the hill? It's Michael Chopra. It's Michael Chopra. What's that coming over the hill? It's Michael Chopra. It's Michael Chopra.
Thank you.
Welcome.
There we go. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Rummer Tavern. If you don't know by now, I'm Si from Ace Podcast Nation, and this is City Legends number 3. And I'm delighted, thrilled, very excited to be joined by former Cardiff City striker and indeed Cardiff City legend, Mr. Michael Chopra.
Good character.
So
Go, man. Oh, come on, you better go. Stop being greedy. Go on, you go, man.
I was just saying, you talked about like the triggers earlier for the addiction and like having the betting logo on your shirt every day. Do you think that there could be like more done for like when you're growing up getting these triggers as like fans and as players? Do you think that the governing bodies should be doing more? I know there's a ban coming up on shirt sponsors, but like, do you think they should do more? And have they like asked players like you who've struggled with addiction what they could do?
I think they should do more. The governing body. Will they do? No, because there's too much money. The betting companies are giving the Premier League and these clubs far too much money, and until big other sponsorships come along and take over, then it'll continue. You look at the advertising. I think there was a ban a couple of years ago that they were going to try and stop advertising at half time and stuff like that. And I was watching one game, and then straight away after half time, when it goes to the adverts, it was a Bet365 advert.
Yeah, Ray Winston or something.
What you've got to think about is you've got a son who's 6, 7, 8 year old watching that game of football. Now, when it's half time, he's watching a betting advert. So straight away, what kids in another generation are going to think about this as well? Do you know what I mean? And people don't see this because at the end of the day, for the Premier League, it's all about the money. So until the governing body do something, it'll never ever change.
Do you think that like something which sort of caught my ear then with that question is that they should speak to players like yourself who've had issues with gambling or drinking or whatever whatever the addiction may be or the issue may be? It would make sense for the PFA, for the FA, for the Premier League, for the Football League to speak to people like yourself to find out how they can better look after players and in turn spot things like sponsorships towards fans. But
I believe it. I
it.
don't see any. I don't think there's ever been any football club that's been sponsored by a cigarette company. Don't think there's ever been one. There's been drinking companies, Carlsberg and Labette, Nottingham Forest, but I don't think there's ever been a cigarette one. Why is that? Because the governing body, the government, cut down on cigarettes. They're trying to put a ban in place on cigarettes. I don't think they're bothered enough about gambling. There's never been any cigarette ones.
The Italian National Football Federation was during Euro 2. The UEFA Championships 2020 was sponsored by a cigarette company. That's about as much as I could find. But that's Italian. Up until a couple of years ago, they still had managers smoking on the sideline in Italy. But I mean, I've just had a quick. I haven't looked in detail, but quick Google. Yeah, there's no.
Stuka was a cigarette. So.
Yeah, there's no football team that doesn't look like has ever been sponsored by a cigarette company, which is really interesting, isn't it? Because when you look at it, cigarettes, alcohol, gambling, they all do damage to people in different ways, and they're all socially acceptable in different ways. But for some reason, cigarettes, obviously, they're not good for you and stuff like that. But alcohol does as much damage. Gambling can do as much damage. And another thing which caught my ear was when you said about like a 6 or 7 year old watching those gambling adverts. I'd go as far as well as if you've got, say, a 15-year-old who is watching a film which has got Ray Winston in, and then he's watching the football, and then he sees Ray Winston telling him, Bet365, go and do this, go and do that. Now, I'm not criticising Ray Winston, but I would say that 15-year-old is going to have an effect. He is more likely to gamble in the future. And I think, ultimately, in the long term, that causes a lot more issues and can be, like you say, trigger points and things like that.
I think it could be something so simple as it could be, let's say, like there's a 3-1.
1984 to 1986, West Brom actually had a no smoking.
No smoking sign.
Sponsor. As that for the football shirt.
That's
1984 to 86.
I would love to get my hands on that shirt. I got to say. I wonder
What
if
was
there's
that,
any of them.
1984?
1984 to 1986, they had no smoking as their sponsor.
Got to get one of them in the shop, Dan.
Yeah.
It's just got to own you.
I can't afford it. I spent all money on fags.
Does anyone remember that sponsor we had for like one game? I think 777.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
a Chinese company.
It was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were you there then?
We
Charles?
played against Newcastle with it.
Ah, right.
It was on TV the game.
I had a Matthews shirt from that game.
Yeah.
What happened with that sponsor?
I think the EFL stopped it.
They were deemed to be an illegal betting
Yeah.
company. They weren't.
They didn't
regulated
have
in the
Yeah.
market, therefore they couldn't sponsor. They couldn't sponsor or advertise here. So then SBO Bet took over for the rest of the season.
Did
Yeah.
Cardiff City ever print any of them shirts?
Not for retail sale. They were.
Xavier Ratio.
They were
I was going to say that'd be like gold dust,
Again.
wouldn't it? That shirt.
I did have Adam Matthews, but I swapped it for something for that game, and they had about 3 or 4 leftovers. I've still got one of those.
Oh wow, nice. I like that. Well, Jace, what were you going to ask, Ben?
Oh yeah. Obviously, being a Jordan Newcastle fan and then going to Sunderland, what was it like sitting on the pitch being a Sunderland supporter? Not in yourself?
No, it was. Do you know what? It was tough. It was really tough. Even before I signed, thinking about if I'm going to make this decision, I remember getting the phone call in Portugal, and it was Roy Keane rang my mobile. Was on a whiff. I thought someone was taking the piss when he said it was Roy Keane. He was like, "I want to sign you and think you're a great player. You played against us last year, but I know you're a Newcastle fan, and I know there's going to be a lot of pressure on you. So speak to your family, speak to your friends about it." My family were all for it to do it, yeah, because they wanted me to be back in the Premier League, especially the season I had at Cardiff. I proved that I was good enough to be in the Championship. Am I good enough to be in the Premier League, sort of thing? Is the next step. Spoke to my friends who were like, "Nah, don't do it."
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Newcastle fans through. Nah, don't do it. Typical. But yeah, look.
How long do you think you sort of thought about that?
It took me about a week. It took me about a week to think about it. Because look, it was gonna be a tough decision, because if I didn't do well, I would have got annihilated. Yeah, Southern fans would have been, Geordie's coming, doesn't care, he doesn't do this, doesn't do that. But the first game of the season against Tottenham, it couldn't have got off to a great start. You know what I mean? We won the game 1-0. I scored the winner, and everything was history. Then I think we played Birmingham the second game on Tuesday or Wednesday night. We drew 2-2 at St Andrews, and I scored. So straight away the took to me. I got off to a great start. Then we.
How did you find it playing against Newcastle?
No, that was really tough. I remember being at St James's, and I was on the bench at the time, and I had to warm up, and I was getting loads of stuff chucked at me and everything, and it was only 2 years ago that I was scoring for Newcastle against Sunderland, and it was my first Premier League goal and that sort of thing, and to have your own fans and your mates abusing you on the terraces, do you know what I mean? It was tough, but at the end of the day, it's a job. I'm just human, do you know what I mean? That's how people take football too far, do you know what I mean? I know there's rivalry and it can be past that and stuff like that. And you see me on Twitter when Cardiff beat Swansea, I'll have a joke with the fans.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's a laugh and a joke. There's no harm against it. I'm not going to do anything to them and stuff like that. It's just banter. But when I was warming up, it was hurtful at times. You know what I mean?
You made that fair anyway, miss on purpose.
Well, let's just say I signed for Cardiff the next day.
Well, then, with regards to Cardiff, obviously you scored that famous winner, which is in the print, but against Swansea. Like, what a moment that is!
Michael Chopra to win it.
I watch it back like quite regularly. But talk to us about that moment and the game and just the general feeling with that, because it was like what
92, I think. Yeah. Look, people forget about the first goal as well, because the first one I scored was important as well. I think it was just before half time, and then to go in drawn 1-1 totally changes the dynamics of the game, changes how the manager thinks, and it gives the players a big boost going into the second half. But I always felt that we had good enough players that if I got another chance, then I'd be able to score. And I think the winner was just instinct. I think you look at where I start when the throw-in comes in. Some strikers might have been waiting for the flick on inside the box, but I don't know. I was just out to the side a bit, and Aaron Wildig's got up and won a header for a player so small to jump that high and win the header. And then look, I've done the easiest thing ever, is just to put the ball in the back of the net. You know what I mean? And the joy and relief and everything, and you can see this what to do. Do you know what I mean? It was just so emotional, because I know, look, the game's finished. We've won 2-1 and we've killed their hopes of getting into the playoffs.
Oh, bless.
You were the only one who's emotional.
Oh, I know. What about you say celebrations? You didn't know what to do. Well, when you look back at your career, you see some videos of the goals you scored. Are you ever embarrassed by any of your celebrations?
Probably that one.
Is it?
Well, that
just
one,
because of
that
the moment.
That one, and the one I scored for Newcastle at Sunderland.
Just because it was a motion to go over.
I think so, yeah. And I think looking back now, I should have just jumped in with the fans.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
It just getting there.
Got a yellow card and just celebrated with them. Yeah, but look, but I don't know. I look back now and I'm just thinking, what was I doing? Tried to do like a roly-poly, do you know what I mean? And that sort of thing. But it's just, you don't know what to do, do you know what I mean? You're just so ecstatic, and the relief, and we've scored a winner and that sort of thing, and the smile on the fans' faces and everything.
With that in mind, do you think VAR is spoiling those emotional moments from football?
I think so, yeah.
Because people don't
want to celebrate, because the touch and go, whether they're offside, they're onside, and then when it does get given, the celebration's gone, all the emotion's gone out of your body. Do you know what I mean? These goals that you score is all adrenaline. It happens. Do you know what I mean? In that moment in time, and if you're waiting 2-3 minutes, some of the longer, then you just put your hand up and salute.
It just kills it, doesn't it?
And stuff like that.
I'm not a fan of VAR at all. I'm ready for it to just go. I think it's causing.
It's good in some circumstances, but I don't think it's consistent.
Yeah, and I think that's the problem, and it's consistency. Next, anyone? Oof, we're out of questions already. That's all right. I got plenty. I got loads.
I'll do it.
Go on, Dan.
With the recent bans, that was an excellent question, really. But just sort of tagging on to that, with the bans for Ivan Toney and Sandro Tonali, playing for teams that are sponsored by betting accounts, and yet they're having a little bit of a bet, not necessarily on their own teams or against their own teams, but their bans are significantly more serious than players who've gone out and tried to end someone's career or made a racist remark on the pitch. Like, do you think football? Do you think it's got its priorities right when it comes to all of those issues?
I don't think they should have got the bans for that amount of time. I think you ban someone for, if I got banned for 10 months, that would mentally affect me, because football's my life. And I'll give you an example. When I was at Ipswich, we had a team night out, team bonding, and it was supposed to be in London on a Tuesday night, so we had Wednesday off. And I said, all the lads were like, let's meet at London Mayfair Hotel, 6 o'clock. So I said to the lads, look, if there's no more than 10 players there at 6 o'clock, let's just jump on a train and go to Newcastle. From King's Cross, we'd be in Newcastle 9 o'clock. So we got to like 5 to 6, and I said, Jimmy, there's 8 players here, mate. I said, are you ready? He was like, wait until 6 o'clock, Chops, wait. So I said, Jimmy, right now it's 6 o'clock. No one else has come. I says, I knew. So let's jump in a cab. We go to Newcastle and get on the train. So we went to Newcastle and on the train from London. We were drinking on the train, absolutely steaming when we got to Newcastle. Drinking all day Wednesday in Newcastle. We had training on Thursday back in Ipswich, so it's like a 6-hour drive. Got to about 2 o'clock in the morning. We hired a taxi to drive us back to Ipswich. So me and Jimmy have took some sleepers in the taxi to get back to Ipswich. We got back to Ipswich at about 8 o'clock in the morning. And I was like, Jimmy, come back to my place, we get changed. And obviously these sleeping tablets don't wear off straight away, do you know what I mean? You're still fucking groggy. So we got back to mine, it's 8 o'clock in the morning. So I said to Jimmy, I went, we'll just go to sleep for an hour. So the gaffers got wind, Paul Jewell got wind of it, that we had been to Newcastle. We brought training forward half an hour to 10 o'clock. Normally we have to be in at 10 o'clock for a 10:30 start. So I set my alarm for like 9:30. Obviously I'm fucking fast asleep. My alarm's going off. The lads are ringing. Where are you? Gaffer's going crazy and that. So we got to the training ground for 10:30. Me and Jimmy's jogging on the pitch. And the gaffer shouting, you two fuck off, I'll see you after training. And me and Jimmy are like, oh no. Jimmy's like, Chopra, what we done? I was like, oh, don't worry. So we've gone in his office and the gaffer's right, Jimmy, you're suspended for 2 weeks. Chops, you're getting fined 2 weeks. And Jimmy's going, Gaffer, why can't you not fine me 2 weeks? Why are you going to suspend me? And the gaffer went, Jimmy, you love football and this will hurt you because you can't train with the lads. Chops, you love a bet, so I'm taking your money off you so you can't bet. So going back to your question about what you said, do you know what I mean about betting and stuff like that? I think if he was to suspend me, then it would kill me. Do you know what I mean? Because I and stuff like that would hurt Jimmy.
Yeah.
So these players, Tonali and Tony, football's their life. It's going to affect them mentally. So you're banning them from football, but you're affecting something else. So they need to get help to understand that they can't play in the games and that sort of thing. For me, they should have kept letting them play and just educated them and tried to help them. Educate, understand, and get them help they need.
Yeah.
But you take something away from someone that has been their life since 10.
Day in, day out.
It's going to kill them.
I'd like to think that they'll.
I know Tonali's allowed to train and play in friendly matches, but Tony's, he's got completely isolated.
Like I'd like to think that they get support through that time, but like I think it's probably more likely coming from their clubs, like you said about what Ipswich did for you. Like I'm sure Newcastle are looking after Tonali and Brentford are looking after Tony, but like. Somebody like the governing bodies, I think, should be supporting them as well. But I don't think any of us have got confidence that they are. Let's say.